Okay, I know most of you are gone already. I just went back and I found all of these technical issues with my podcast. So I am going to redo this. I am going to redo this. And if you're already signed up, um, I'm going to redo this. I am letting people know now. I'm going to see if it has something to do with what I'm doing. So if you're out there, if you can hear me, say hello. If not, then I'll get you. I saw some of the comments and I was trying to stay under 30 minutes. So I missed some of the things you guys were trying to say to me and giving me heads up. Um, so I'm going to redo my podcast. And if I'm the only one here, then so be it. I'll go back and I will post it to this week. So I apologize. Bear with me. Some things are happening way beyond my control. I have no control over. So, with that being said, I'm going to speak directly into the mic. I'm going to face the camera. Um, I want to say good evening and welcome to the show. Thank you for spending your Thursday night with me. As always, I say I'm truly humbled. My name is Hank Batiste. My show is called Omit da Logic. This shit makes no sense. I'm your host tonight. And meanwhile, despite all of these obstacles, the voices in my head are saying, Mr. President, raising interest rates only affect the poor and middle class. It only affects low income families. So there's got to be a better way. It's been a week since Biden's State of the Union address. It's been 2 weeks since the start of the Putin PU-TIN Ukrainian war. It's been more than a year since Biden has taken office with his campaign promises of making the wealthiest Americans pay their fair share of taxes. It's been a year of Biden promises of Build Back Better and a lackluster performance from Biden and Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and so forth and so on. It's been a year of obstructionism from both parties. Both the Trump Republicans have led the charge by criticizing everything that Biden proposed. I know that you just came in. Let me know that you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear any feedback. Let me know if you're having any problems hearing me. I'm going to take this. I hate to do this pre-recorded thing, but I'm probably going to have to take this to post so that people could hear what I have to say this week. What I have to say this week is very important, and from here on out, I'm gonna keep the mic all up in my face. Okay? It's been a year of obstructionism from both parties. The Trump Republicans have led the charge by criticizing everything that Biden has tried to do or propose. The Dems are no better. They're fighting amongst themselves, and you cannot say Biden without saying Manchin. It's been a year, and if Biden were Batman, then Manchin would be the Penguin or the Riddler. Manchin has become democracy's, not just Biden. Manchin has become democracy's arch nemesis. Every, even the people in West Virginia are pleading with Manchin to do the right thing for them, not for himself. Tonight, I'm going to talk about what's happening in Ukraine and the PUTIN and what the what ifs. These are very perilous times, to say the least, people. Then we're going to talk about the theory of raising interest rates. to combat inflation and why it never ever works. And it won't work now. Tonight's show is called Raising the Interest Rates Only Hurts Low and Middle Class Families. My name is Hank Batiste. This is Omit da Logic. This shit makes no sense, folks. No matter what the obstacles, we're going to make it work. So let's get to it. PU-TIN's Putin's USSR aspirations. It seems like every day, either intentionally or inadvertently, I get asked the same question. People ask me the same questions time and time again, and the top two questions are the same. Since I started doing this podcast, true, I engage people from every walk of life, from every demographic background, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to do this to check the pulse on what's happening. And I also want to confirm something that we have some of the same aspirations, we have some of the same fears. The difference is how we go about satisfying said aspirations and how do we deal with said fears and who we look to guide us through them. For the last 2 weeks, the two questions that I'm asked over and over again is what do you think about PU-TIN and the Ukrainian war? The second question is usually, and most of you have asked me this, do you think we are going to wind up in a war with Russia? And if so, will it be the start of World War III? What do I think about the Ukrainian war? First of all, there is no Ukrainian war. Now, let me clear that up. To call PU-TIN's invasion, this genocide that he's pulling in the Ukraine, to call it the Ukrainian war is like faulting the child for being abused by an abusive caretaker. I said it before and I'll say it again. What PU-TIN is doing is nothing short of empire building in a hope of restoring the now defunct USSR. The other question that I get asked, what do I think of PU-TIN? PU-TIN is 80 something. Okay. No, supposedly Vladimir Putin is 69 years old. He was born under the sign of Libra. Maybe that explains why he's off balance. And no insult to the Libras out there, but Putin is an ex-KGB. That's equivalent to the Russian CIA on steroids. He's probably been playing the spy game since the missiles of October between Kennedy and Khrushchev. Oh, Nikita Khrushchev. PU-TIN became more emboldened. He became more confident after this bromance he had with despicable Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, when you look at what Trump did and tried to do, you see despicable Donnie imitating or emulating Putin and Kim Jong-un and what they did. The difference is they're in supposedly communist countries, but their rule is by authority. They have authoritative rule, which basically means there's no one to challenge them. Imagine, if you will, if Joe Manchin were in Russia, he would have had a lethal shot of some radioactive isotope, and he would be withering away in some nondescript hospital somewhere. So Trump, like Putin, He refused to release any financial or medical records or documents, just like Putin. Since Trump left office, Putin, North Korea, and China watched Trump and McConnell run havoc over the Constitution. They watched the Trumpublicans on January the 6th in his failed coup attempt. They've been watching this inept so called congressional investigation into January the 6th. They've been watching as a failed coup attempt has been called an insurrection, yet nobody who are at the top, CNN and other companies and other news stations and what have you, said that Trump is culpable, but they've done nothing to hold him accountable. So he's still a viable candidate for 2024. So we are one election, one rigged election from having our own Putin. That would definitely be the fall of America. Since Biden took office, the Dems have been in total disarray. Pelosi has been working to make money. Nancy and Paul Pelosi have made more money on Wall Street than Gordon Gecco in Wall Street. Manchin and Sinema have lined their pockets respectively with their own corporate interests that they've been working for as congressmen, as senators, and obstructing any legislation for getting passed. This ensures that the wealthy do not pay their share of taxes. This also ensures that corporations still have all these legal loopholes. So when you and I need to call customer service, we wind up in bumfuck Egypt, in Mumbai, India, or in Guadalajara somewhere. So they're given tax breaks to move these jobs off of American soil. And the campaign promise was to make them accountable. Since Biden has taken office, AOC and the other so called progressive have sought to make more of a name for themselves than they have in getting any legislative actions, any legislative bills passed into law. McCarthy and company have done everything humanly and illegally possible to keep Trump's name relevant. Redistricting, gerrymandering, and restrictive voter laws have taken place in almost 47 or on the books in 47 of the 50 states. This makes America look extremely weak globally or internationally. This is why Putin has become so bold, so confident that he can do whatever he wants to do. The only thing that is working in our favor, people, is the fact that all of the aforementioned countries all have nuclear weapons, and nobody truly wants a nuclear war. The only thing that works publicly is China has condemned Russia publicly. Rumor has it, though, that Xi Jinping, China's premier or president or whatever, asked Putin to hold off on his invasion of Ukraine until after the Olympics that was held in China. Go figure. Need I remind you, despite of all of this public condemnation, need I remind you of the old adage that says, an enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is politics making strange bedfellows, which basically means the one enemy that both that all three, China, North Korea, and Russia, have in common is the US of A. This means that if something happened, if we were drawn into a NATO fight into the Baltic region, North Korea would take advantage of the situation. And China, who's been siding with Russia far as financial and policies and some of the human issues are concerned, would probably fight on the side of Russia. That would be the start of a third world war. And it would mean the fall of the United States of America. Moving on. Biden's gas and interest rate shell game. I call it that because when it comes to false news, it depends on what you want to believe and who you choose to believe. I was researching top oil producing companies, and I was also researching top oil producing countries. And what I saw was a graph, almost as if CNN was watching my keystrokes or had an electronic fly on the wall. CNN put up a graph yesterday that confirmed and contradicted some of my research. According to World Population Review, Statistica.com, and ELA.gov, the United States of America produced more oil in 2020 and 2021. Surprised? Not I. According to theatlantic.com, the United States has been the leading producer of both oil and natural gas since 2018. Yet, U.S. companies continue to buy crude oil from other countries like Southern. When I say South America, I mean Venezuela. When I say other countries like Saudi Arabia, and guess what? Russia. Yes, Russia. This went on until earlier this week when it became common knowledge. So, on one hand, you're putting Russia under sanctions. On the other hand, you're rewarding them with contracts by buying their oil. So you're helping out the economy that you're supposedly trying to strangulate to get them to conform to world moral code. This demonstrates that Biden has a sneaky way of pushing his agenda. To illustrate that, let me just remind you of this. When Biden ran into a brick wall with getting minimum wages raised to $15 an hour, he circumvented Congress by using pandemic funds to give money to families that essentially made it more profitable for breadwinners to sit on their asses at home, take care of their families, and get more money than they were making as jobs working as hostesses and cooks and waiters and most of these menial minimum wage jobs. Consequently, business competed by raising wages to attract workers and even made it easier for most of them to work from home. So why do I bring this up? Because this is one of the reasons why I stay on not only Biden's ass, but Pelosi's ass. Because we put them in control, we put them in charge, thinking that they would make a difference, not give us more of the same. And that's what's been happening. Because Biden, and I bring this up, this illustration up, because Biden has run into the same brick wall and trying to push a clean agenda and electric cars. Why is that relevant? Because despite being a major producer of oil, the best way to circumvent Manchin and Sinema and the others who oppose him in Congress is to make gas so expensive or allow gas to be so expensive that electric cars look more appealing. This is this shit is chess, people. It's not checkers. It's chess. And he's playing it to the hilt. So why is this a problem with Biden's shell game? Inflation has hurt the lower and middle class by eliminating what was supposed to be disposable income. That extra income was disposed of almost 3 years ago when the pandemic started. And in the last year, it's no it's no secret that the Dems are in control and inflation is going crazy. So it seems like everything is happening to ensure that in 2022 there's a changing of the guard and the Republicans take over. And we're going to see more of the same and even worse. And if there's still a viable candidate by the name of Donald J. Trump, and he becomes president again, this bromance, this calling what Putin did, PU-TIN, as genius, just shows you what his mindset is. It just illustrates to you what he would do and what would happen to America as a whole, and specifically all of those checks and balances in the Constitution that have been trampled on since 2017 when despicable, delusional Donnie took office. Despite the so-called fighting of inflation, the theory is we raise interest rates, spending becomes less prominent. When in essence, what happens is low and middle income families find it hard to do things like buy houses. They find it harder to buy new cars. There was once upon a time, about 5 years ago, if a car was more than 5 years old, I had more than 30,000 miles, it was almost impossible to get financing on that car. Now we see cars and trucks with over 200,000 miles carrying, it's like major companies of financing these vehicles for 6 years. Why? These cars are already on some of their last legs. If you get 200,000 out of a truck or car, you've done well. If you get an additional 30, count yourself beyond lucky. It's a miracle. So you're going to wind up paying for something that you can no longer drive. You're going to wind up replacing every part from the alternator to the control module to the window modules, power windows, and everything in the car truck. So you're going to wind up paying $55,000 for a car truck that you bought for $20,000. Then you're going to be looking at additional $10,000 or more in maintenance fees. That's why companies like this one that's on with Ice-T, and I don't want to call their name because I'm tired of seeing. So I'm not going to make my show. And now they even got Vivica doing commercials for them. So I'm not going to make my show advertisement for them, but you know who I'm talking about. Suddenly, these companies are becoming more popular. So, in addition to paying a car note, you have to pay insurance, and now you're supposed to pay insurance on a car with 150,000 miles when it breaks down. And at what point, after taking X amount of dollars do they decide to drop you? When they say that this car's mileage is beyond what we deem is reasonable, so we can no longer cover this. If you've had 2 accidents in a car and were canceled by your insurance company, how long you think it's going to be before some of these companies take your money and the first or second claim you put in, they drop you? Moving on. So this theory is by raising, or the rationale to raising the federal interest rate is so slows down consumer spending. If we slow down consumer spending, then prices are supposed to go down. With less people buying, prices go down. The problem is this never, capital N, capital E, capital V, capital E, capital R, this never works because the you can no longer afford these goods and products. The bad thing is rent that goes from $600 a month to $800 a month to $1,000 a month to $1,200 to $1,200 a month. It never comes back to 600. It may fall a little bit, so it might be somewhere around $900 to $1,000. So you just went from making $7.50 an hour to $15 an hour, and still 80% of your paycheck goes to just paying your rent. So you're in no better place. The only people that made off was those corporations that are not paying their fair share of taxes, that are still sending jobs over to places like Egypt, to places like India, to places like South America and Guadalajara and all these other places. So all of this is a distraction. It's a diversion. It keeps us from focusing on these campaign promises that said that we were going to hold the wealthiest Americans accountable. We've got billionaires that are on the cusp. Most notably, Elon Musk is on the cusp of becoming, if not already there, becoming a trillionaire on our dime. Because most of the companies that he have do not pay taxes. And as the CEO, he has so much money caught up in investments that he doesn't pay taxes. So we, the low and middle income families, are going to be stuck again. The problem with raising interest rates, in this past year, I've seen so many of my Facebook friends become homeowners. If I had been able to buy my house pre-pandemic or in 2020 when I intended to buy, I would have saved myself about $50,000 just in the purchase price. Go figure. So by raising interest rates, those people that could qualify for a 3% loan are no longer qualifying because now the same loan is going to be 6%, 7%, 8%, 10%. So with a 3%, they may have ended up with a $800 or $1,000 a month mortgage. That same mortgage would be $1,500 to $2,000. So they can no longer qualify for that. So what that does is that forces the families who was going to get a break by being able to build some financial wealth and equity in their families and pass on to future generations. Now they're forced to stay in apartments and so on and so on and so on. And the only people that can afford to buy is the rich and the wealthy. And the rich and the wealthy can continue to be slumlords and so forth and so on. But moving on, folks, there's so much, even in the darkest of this night, even in the bleakest of this scenario, there's so much for us to feel positive for. But we cannot afford to relax. We cannot afford to back down. We cannot afford to go backwards. Case in point, I engage people, as I said, from every walk of life, from every ethnic background, from every demographic background. I talk to people from um, the youngest of the young to the oldest of the old. And let me just do this. I'm going to digress for just a minute. Woman I used to date, her young grandson fell in love with me. We no longer date, but I'm still crazy about her grandson. And more importantly, he's still crazy about me. So when he goes by her house, he wants to watch my podcast. And she calls me and she laughs and she said, Devon wanted to watch your podcast. I told him, you don't even understand what Hank is talking about. He said, so I like to see him. I like to hear him talk. So if this kid grows up with that mentality, imagine what he's going to be one day. We can't afford. I meet people from every walk of life. Yesterday, I had a father and a son team in my house working on the AC, on my air conditioner. And it was so funny because they were like a white Sanford and Son. They were so comical that I told the father, this is what would happen if me and my son worked together. And I told the dad, I said, don't never let a chance to get on his ass pass. He said, couldn't be. And the son looked at me like the two of you guys are ganging up on me. You understand? But we yucked it up. We laughed and we joked, despite where we came from for so long afterwards, after they fixed the problem, they stood here and we talked about this and talked about that. And somehow we got into talking about politics. And they said to me the same thing that some of you have said to me. You're the type of person that needs to be running for office. You're the type of person that would make a difference. And to them, I said the same thing that I said to you. Every week, I make the statement, don't be so afraid to die that you forget to live for a purpose. But then I remind myself of those men that gave the ultimate price and how we honor them or the lack thereof. And I decide that I want to be here for my sons. I want to be here for my grandsons and my great grandsons. I want to be here for my daughters and my granddaughters and my great granddaughters. So I move strategically. And I haven't ruled it out. As a matter of fact, some of you are starting to talk me into it. So, with that, that's all I got for you. Regardless to where we come from, we all want the same things. We want a safe place where we can raise our children, our grandchildren. We want to have some money to live as we see fit, and we want to have something to pass on to future generations. That's not indicative of being black. That's not indicative of being white, Puerto Rican, Haitian, Mideastern, Iranian, or Jewish, or anything else. It's a human. It's a human aspiration. So focus on the things that we have in common. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. As always, go to my YouTube channel. Even with all the problems that I'm having with my YouTube channel, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to find out what the problem is. I want you to share my podcast, subscribe. If you've already subscribed, share it with a friend. This message is not black or white, it's for everybody. You understand what I'm saying? Because I wear these. And the thing that's lacking in our country right now, especially in leadership roles, is honor, integrity, and holding oneself accountable and oversight from those that are supposed to be in leadership roles. That's the backbone of the Marine Corps: honor, God, country, and corps. When and if something happens, as much as Biden talks about Bo, it won't be his son. It won't be Hunter. It certainly won't be any grandson. It's going to be somebody like me, someone that looks just like you or your son. They're going to be the ones who come back here with these dog tags draped over a coffin. Some of them closed caskets with an American flag and an empty thank you for your service. Meanwhile, veterans are fighting every day to get compensation, the same compensation that Congress takes for granted. That's all I got for you tonight. I said it before, I'm done. Do not be so afraid to die that you forget to live for a purpose. Because the one thing about this game called life, nobody leaves alive. See you here next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. God has blessed me to live long enough to see my family, to see my sons and my daughters say, Dad, you know what? You were right. And I see them go on and become productive adults. So, as the patriot of this family, I take that role serious. As your host, I take this role serious. That's why sometimes I go off the rail. That's why sometimes I get emotionally caught up. But it is what it is. See you next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. My name is Hank Batiste. This is Omit the Logic. This shit makes no sense. But somehow, hopefully tonight, I help to make it make some kind of sense so that you can get through tomorrow and we can fight the good fight to overcome this thing. As always, important, I wish you love, I wish you peace, and like your man, hair grease, I'm out of here. I love you, ain't a damn thing you could do about it. Good night, people. My YouTube people, I apologize. I did some things. Hopefully, this was better. Um, I want to take a minute, and I'll probably this out. But did you have any problems hearing me throughout this broadcast? Cynthia, I know you were here probably for most of it, if not all of it. Respond. Let me know if you had any problems with my voice breaking up, with in and out, what have you. I think I'm going to have to stop some of my emotional movement and stick to um, it was perfect. Wow. Last time I heard that, it was sarcastically said. You guys, thank you for coming back. I see some people here I don't know. Hopefully, it was you've gotten something positive out of it. Tune in every week. I'll be here at 7:30. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. Thank you guys. Good night.